All right. We are live. Now, I'm not quite sure what's going on with that. All right. Got that fixed. Fantastic. So, welcome. My name is Marhan, back for another Instagram Live Q&A about everything LSAT, particularly Digital Lsat. So, super excited to have you guys join me again. Everyone who was able to join us last week, I appreciate you coming by as well. We apologize for the difficulties we had saving that video. Obviously, we're just getting started with this stuff, so we'll be better this week. We will definitely make sure that this video saves. We'll make it available for replay. We were able to save parts of last week's as well. They're saved right now in our highlights, so feel free to check that out if you didn't get a chance to watch that. A lot of great information in there. But we will be also adding this to YouTube after. I appreciate all your well wishes, guys. Welcome. All right, so let's dive right in. So we'll get started. Quick agenda here. Again, just to recap, this will be available for 24 hours afterwards on replay. So if you're not able to catch the whole thing and you want to come back, and then we will make it available after that as well. Hopefully on Instagram, but definitely on YouTube. Again, working through some of the kinks here. Another thing that I forgot to mention last time was if you are struggling with the LSAT and you are looking for help, please just text LSAT to this number and you can have a free consult with us. Even as an unpaid student, we're happy to give you our advice and guidance. All we care about is making sure that you do as well as possible on this exam. So if you are struggling, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. All right, so another thing I want to mention is if you are submitting questions, right, not just posting comments, please use the question feature because those will show up separate for me. And then obviously I can highlight those on the screen for you guys and answer them and get through as many of them as possible. All right, so first things first, let's recap Monday's Digital Lsat. We can go over, obviously, some of the stories that we heard about what took place. So really, I mean, in terms of the Digital Lsat feedback on Monday, generally it seems like it went pretty well. I mean, obviously there were some hiccups at certain locations, which we'll highlight here for everyone. But generally it seems like it was a successful rollout by LSAC, and I would imagine, obviously, as we move forward here and they get a couple administrations under their belts, they'll work out all the kinks. So a couple of things to highlight. First, one of the questions we got last week was about the scratch paper, and I'm happy to report that everybody was thrilled with the amount of scratch paper that they were given for the Digital Lsat. It seems like the booklet had about 14 pages of scratch paper, and again, it seems like you could have also requested additional booklets if you ran out. So that's something to definitely be happy about moving forward. Now, there seems like there was a number of connectivity issues with the tablet LSAT. One location in particular seemed to have such an issue that the exam was actually canceled, which obviously not a great thing, but better than having a malfunction that ruins the exam experience. At least for those students, they just had to have it postponed. So not the end of the world there. One of the things that I thought was kind of cool was there was a report of a student who had a malfunction with their tablet, and they had to replace their tablet and give them a new tablet. And when they got the new tablet, the exam picked up exactly where they had left off, which is kind of cool. Same amount of time, same exact question they were on, which actually makes you feel a lot better about having some kind of technical issue arise during your Digital Lsat, if that's the way that it's dealt with. So that's actually quite exciting to see as well. Another one of the main complaints, it seems, had to do with the brightness of the tablet and the glare. I mean, that was something that seems to have given students some trouble. Let me just take a look here at some of my notes, some other things. So reports of the questions saying the passage above, when actually now the passage is on the left-hand side, so you can see that they haven't got around to updating all of the tablets, all of the questions yet for the Digital Lsat. And then there were some reports of no stylists. But, generally speaking, it seems like students felt like they could move through the exam faster, particularly at the end of sections with the random guessing, right? Much easier to just tap, 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 as opposed to bubble in a Scantron. Also jumping around in the section, I think students found that to be quite useful. And the only other thing is obviously the logic games, which was something we highlighted last week, which we felt was going to be the biggest difference. And obviously the importance of organization with a blank sheet of paper now, instead of having the shell of the game to guide you, I think is obviously the biggest substantive change, because obviously there is no real substantive change. Just the mode is different, but obviously without the game on the paper in front of you, that is different. So C-Love32, I see your question there. I appreciate it. I did want to address it because this is something that seems to be some confusion across the board about retake policy, cancellation policy with the Digital LSAT. And LSAC actually sent out a notice about this that I'll just read to you guys here. It says, all July 2019 test takers, regardless of whether they took the Digital LSAT or the paper LSAT, will receive their scores on Wednesday, August 28th. So everyone's going to get their score on the same day. And then you will have until Wednesday, September 4th, until 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time to decide either to keep or cancel your score, right? If you cancel, you will receive a coupon entitling you to be able to retake the LSAT at no additional charge from October 2019 through the April 2020 test. If you choose to keep your score, your selection must also be completed by September 4th, and your score will automatically become part of your LSAC account and sent to law schools to which you apply. If you don't respond by September 4th, LSAC will consider you as keeping your score, and again, it will be released. So if you're planning to cancel, make sure you inform them that you are canceling, because if they don't hear from you, they will keep it. Now, this is the most important part of this, I think, for everyone moving forward. This policy only applies to the July 2019 LSAT, right? The cancellation doesn't apply moving forward. And yes, all score cancellations will appear on your report as candidate cancel, but irrelevant, makes no difference, so don't worry about that appearing. And then the last thing they said here, something to note here, right? Moving forward, all score cancellations, and again, this is score cancellations without the privilege or benefit of seeing your score in advance, right? So for the September exam, you do have the ability to cancel, but you have to make that decision within 6 days of your exam date, and again, you won't know your score before making that decision. And lastly, they encouraged everyone to complete their writing sample as soon as possible. Again, remember now that's separate from the exam. You have to log in online and complete the writing sample within 1 year of your LSAT exam date. And so that's a general overview of the July 2019 exam. Obviously, I know a lot of you who didn't have the opportunity to take it are a little bit paranoid as you look forward here to the September, October, and November exams. So we'll talk about the Digital LSAT a lot today. And obviously those of you who had the benefit to take it, I know a lot of students were taking July as kind of a test run because of this cancellation policy, which again, totally fine. But obviously for us here, we're trying to do everything we can to get you in a position to achieve your target score by the fall LSAT, whichever one you are deciding to take. So let's dive into the questions here. Starting over here, is the tablet similar to an iPad? Well, it's a Microsoft Surface tablet, but yes, I mean, in terms of how it looks and feels, how it props up on the table, it is identical, or not identical, but very, very similar to not only an iPad, but also an Android tablet. So yes. Let's see. Will one low LSAT score negatively impact my chances even if I have another score that is great? Absolutely not. So the beauty of today's world, unlike my world when I'm a little bit of a dinosaur, you can tell by the grays in the beard here, but when I took the LSAT way back when, they used to average LSAT scores, which was really problematic, right? Because if you took it, got a low score, you had to do even better, right, the next time around to have the average be anywhere close to what you're looking for your target score. So the good news is, in today's world, law schools no longer average. They are required to report you to the ABA as the highest score, and so that's all they care about. So don't worry if you have a low score. Yes, and in terms of the stylus, guys, we did hear a lot of complaints about the stylus, particularly with the highlighting function. It seemed like highlighting was a little bit difficult on the Digital LSAT. So I appreciate everyone like my dinosaur joke there. I'll try to keep those coming. Here's another one. Should I buy a book to study or buy something online? Well, so again, so guys, I think this is the one thing that students always face, right? Self-study or buying an LSAT prep course, right? Obviously, we're big believers of formal courses, but we're also big believers in making those courses as accessible as possible to everybody, right? Because I do think one of the main issues with standardized testing, not only LSAT prep but standardized testing in general, is that these courses tend to be really expensive, and it kind of they limit your access, and there's a lot of other issues with them, and that's why students kind of resort to self-study with a book. Now, obviously, the one thing that I think is really problematic with a book in terms of the LSAT is a very visual exam, particularly for logic games and even for logical reasoning, particularly with sufficient and necessary stuff, right? I think so being able to see that is much easier than being able to read it. Now, obviously, a couple things to be aware of. Our course, right? We offer instant and lifetime access, which obviously we're super proud of. But also, our LSAC fee waiver makes the course free for anybody who qualifies for an LSAC fee waiver. So if you're experiencing financial difficulties, please be aware of LSAC's fee waiver program. Apply for it, because you not only get our course for free, you actually get a number of other LSAT prep providers' courses for free as well. And that list is available on LSAC's website. So definitely make sure you check that out. Some other things that we offer, to try to make it more affordable for people. We do have our military scholarship, which makes our courses half price for current and former servicemen and women. And then we also have our no interest payment plans, right, with our partner, Affirm, which also helps make it even more budget friendly. But again, what I would recommend, Liz, send a text. 310-818-7743. Just text LSAT, right? And we'll set up a free consult, and we can talk to you about that. Yeah, the fee waiver stuff is great, and LSAC has really been working hard. The Khan Academy stuff is also better than a lot of the stuff that was out there before. I don't think it's as substantive as some of the more formal, dedicated LSAT prep providers, but at least we're seeing a lot of things popping up, making things more affordable. And yes, there is a fee waiver. LSAC offers a fee waiver. If you're struggling financially, obviously they're going to require some documentations in order to prove that. But if you are approved for a fee waiver from LSAC, our course is entirely free. Our premium package, that is the $949 package, is free of charge. So please take advantage of that. All right. So here's a good question. If you get below 150, should you test again? Well, listen, I think the idea here is it's really a matter of personal goals, right? Where are you trying to go to law school? And what is the score that is required to give you a chance to gain admission to that school, right? And again, something that we definitely highlight all the time is there's nothing wrong, absolutely nothing wrong with going to a lower ranked law school. But there is something wrong with borrowing $200,000 to go to a lower ranked law school, right? If that school won't give you the job prospects to repay that debt, it just doesn't make sense from an economic perspective, right? And again, so the beauty of the LSAT score is that not only the number one factor in law school admissions, it's also the number one factor in merit-based aid. So the higher your LSAT score can be, even if you're not shooting for the top schools, the better you can make that decision in terms of a financial decision. And it also gives you a lot of flexibility to do whatever you want when you graduate, right? Whereas if you're crippled with debt, you only have a few options. And something to be aware of, obviously, plug in my alma mater here. Harvard Law School has a low income protection program where it actually allows you, once you graduate, to go pursue any kind of career you want. And they will repay your loans if your salary is too low for you to be able to do it yourself, which is a remarkable program. All right, so where can you take the practice? I'm assuming we're talking about a digital LSAT here, and the easiest way to do that is on LSAC's own website, right? If you go on LSAC's website, they have a section that is designed to get you acclimated with the digital LSAT. They have some sample sections, they have tutorials, but then they also are offering 3 digital LSATs for free. Prep Test 71, Prep Test 73, and then Prep Test 74 are all available on LSAC's website. And apparently you can take it on any platform, whether it's computer or on your mobile devices. Obviously you will need an internet connection because it is using the web platform to do that, but that is available. So definitely make sure you take advantage of that. Now, if you want to take additional exams, obviously you can download LSATMax, the app. It's available on iOS and Android. Appreciate all the amazing reviews, guys. I mean, we recently passed 1,000 App Store reviews for LSATMax, which we're super proud of, and we couldn't have done it without you guys. And then we also released the new app, Practice LSATs by LSATMax. I apologize, I know it's backwards. But both of those are available. You do get a free digital LSAT with the download. It does come with a score report. It does come with video explanations. So that is also available. But again, I would start with LSAC's own site and then move over to our materials for more. So again, the writing section is not part of the digital LSAT anymore. It's a separate part of the exam now, which means that after you take the LSAT, you have a year to log into your LSAC account online and complete the writing sample. So that's the way it's working now. So you don't need to worry about having to type or anything on the tablets. Yes, they do give you scratch paper, guys. Again, how do they proctor the writing sample? So it's just going to be timed, right? You're going to log in. It's going to give you the same amount of time that you would have on the LSAT, and you have to complete it within that time. And guys, just please remember that if you drop the questions into the questions thing, I can get them to appear like this. Yeah, you have a year to complete the writing sample. Obviously, you should complete it sooner because remember, without the writing sample, you don't have an LSAT score, right? So you need to complete it to be able to apply to law school. So if you're planning to apply this fall and you took the July LSAT, log in and complete it. Again, guys, it's not graded. Make an effort, form complete sentences, use the 5-paragraph format, intro, body paragraphs, conclusion, and get that out of the way. What is the lowest score I can reasonably apply to Canadian schools with a 4-point GPA? Okay, so I think this is a great question just in general because a lot of people always ask about GPA LSAT scores, right? And good news and bad news. Bad news if you have a 4.0 GPA. Amazing news if you spent undergrad occupying various administration buildings. So I think the idea here is the LSAT is the #1 factor in law school admissions, right? They say it's up to 75-80% of your application, and the reason for that I think is quite obvious, right? How can a law school compare students from different undergraduate institutions, different majors, right? How can they compare those GPAs? Like, for example, I went to UCLA for undergrad. Go Bruins, by the way. And I was a business economics major, right? How can I compare that to somebody who's at Georgia Tech doing electrical engineering, right? It's not apples to apples, right? Whereas the LSAT is a standard thing that everyone has to take, right? So obviously it's much more heavily weighted. So I'm assuming Canadian schools would be the same. The best thing to do is always check with the school and try to see if they release class profile information. The class profile, again, what you want to focus in on is the 25-75 LSAT score range of the schools you're interested in. Try to get your score to be within that range and hopefully above the 75th range, because that would be ideal. What is going to be the challenge with the tablet? So again, I think one of the main things that I think students struggle with is not practicing on a digital LSAT. A lot of people said who were complaining hadn't spent the time to get comfortable with it. So please, guys, if you are taking the digital LSAT this fall, make sure you practice taking digital LSATs. Again, LSAC offers 3 free LSATs. I'm sure they're going to be releasing more over the next weeks and months that are coming here. But again, you do have our app, which you can purchase practice exams a la carte. You don't need to purchase our course to take advantage of the digital LSATs. And the other thing to be aware of too, if you are an LSAT fee waiver student, you also get access to all of our digital LSATs free of charge as well. Great question in terms of is the digital LSAT worldwide, because that's another question that we got. The answer to that is no. Currently, it is North America, which is Canada and the U.S. And currently, right now, international LSATs are going to remain paper pencil for the foreseeable future. LSAC, I'm sure, will announce when that is going to change, if ever. So I appreciate the love, literally the best, but will you be updating? Sorry, how do I see the rest of the question? So I'm going to send you a direct message just to get a sense of what you're asking here. I apologize, it's cutting off, but I do want to make sure that we get that feature request in. All right, are the LR questions and answers in the digital LSAT the same limitations as the ones in the daily drills? So again, so if you're talking about our daily drills, remember our daily drills are mostly abstract. They're not actually formatted in a standard, daily, LSAT question format, right? And a lot of people, I think this is a good transition. A lot of people have been asking about, again, sufficient and necessary, diagramming sufficient and necessary, how much time that takes, and is it worth it? Now, I find that a fascinating discussion. I know that some LSAT prep providers and tutors might pretend that you don't need to spend the time to diagram sufficient and necessary questions. Well, I guess that's possible. It is possible that you don't need to diagram them. But in order to even get to that place, right, to get to that place where you can read a question that's sufficient and necessary and follow it without diagramming it, you better be diagramming it to begin with, right? That's the only way to get comfortable with it. Particularly any of those long transitive chains where you have to connect a bunch of different sufficient and necessary conditions to figure out what must be true, right? How are you going to do that in your head, right? I think it's a unique person that can do it. Even myself, I would diagram that, right? Now again, I understand that when you're first getting started with sufficient and necessary, right? It's difficult. It's difficult to finish it in the time that you're going to have on the LSAT. But again, the idea here is it's something new. We're getting comfortable with it. As your comfort increases, your timing will naturally improve, right? And again, not only is it the most commonly tested form of reasoning on the LSAT, it appears on logic games, and it is the foundation of the most common question that appears on logical reasoning, right? Strengthen with necessary, and then obviously not as common, but also present, strengthen with sufficient, right? Those are really important concepts, guys. And it is the one part of the LSAT that's pure memorization, right? So we should spend the time to commit the rules of sufficient and necessary to memory. You should know it like the back of your hand, no hesitation, right? So some do, not all, but it is something that we are working on. And again, you will have access to the message boards where you will see tons of discussions taking place for all the questions. Obviously, a lot of the logic games have video explanations, but these are things that we'll be rolling out even more of in the coming weeks. So stay tuned. We've got a lot of exciting things planned for you guys, and which will include continuing to do these Q&As if you find them useful, guys. Because obviously, for us, it's really just about providing value to you in any format medium that you think is helpful. And I realize while social media might not be my bag, you guys really seem to enjoy these, so we're happy to continue to do them. And obviously, if there's any topics or things you'd like us to discuss, just send it over to us, right? We're happy to help by having a specific session. And I was thinking we'll probably do sessions specific for logic games, logic reasoning. That way we can really focus in on some of the things that might be giving you trouble. And then when you guys, people who miss them, when they go back to watch them, they can easily just watch the ones that are useful to them. Do we need to complete the online writing section if we've one completed previously? Question for LSAC. My gut says no, as long as you have one writing sample in your file, you should be fine, but I would check with LSAC on that. I apologize for not knowing the question to that, the answer to that off the top of my head. What I'll do, we'll get my intern Cameron on that. Cameron, if you can, look that question up, please, and maybe we'll get an answer before this session is over. All right, this is a great question. What are the benefits of taking an LSAT that will be disclosed? Really, the only benefit to this is after the fact, when you get your score and you want to know where you were right and where you were wrong. Because all it means is LSAC doesn't release the exam, they don't release the questions to the public afterwards. Like, for example, they just released the Prep Test 87. Prep Test 87 is the June LSAT, the June 2019 LSAT. They're not going to release the July exam, right? So, in terms of taking the LSAT, it makes no difference. But in terms of being able to know, if you end up getting a score that you're not happy with, what went wrong, you're not going to be able to do that on undisclosed exams. And obviously, undisclosed exams are becoming much more common, right? Before, the majority were disclosed. Now the majority are undisclosed. Obviously, that's one of the ways LSAC is able to make the frequency of the LSATs increase. All right. Let's see what else. How does one improve their timing? So, yes, you will have scratch paper again, and plenty of scratch papers, so be super happy about that. Apparently, the booklet had 14 pages of scratch paper, and again, you can ask for more, apparently, so something to just really be at ease about, that you will be fine in that regard. In terms of improving your timing, I think, that's the two-step process. Because I think when you're first starting with your LSAT prep, your timing gets worse because, as we mentioned before, you're trying to apply new strategies, new techniques that you're not super comfortable with, right? So you're hesitating. You're not moving at an optimal pace. Obviously, as your comfort with these concepts, strategies, question types increases, you start to move faster. So, when students sign up for LSATMax, it's actually quite natural that the first diagnostic exam, you actually see a drop in score because you're moving even slower than you were before. And again, it's natural. So I think the key is first focusing on making sure you have the right approach, you have the right strategies, you have the right foundation in place. And then I think by turning your attention to the second step, which is, okay, now I have that, I know what I'm doing, how do I get to the point where I can execute it under the time pressure, right? And I think that's what's really difficult for a lot of students. But again, I think practice makes perfect, right? So, if you're not sure exactly how to approach, practicing under time pressure, because again, you don't want to burn yourself out. Don't take, 3-4 full-length simulated LSATs a week, right? It's a great way to turn your mind into mashed potatoes before your big day. All right, Meredith, or is it? I don't even know. Teddy bear something. Okay, what is the latest test you should take if you're applying this year and not wanting to apply late? Well, so again, right? Obviously, applications are going to be starting here to be accepted. I think some schools start as early as September 1st, right? So obviously, rolling admissions, they're going to start to accept applications. The good news is that you will be hopefully getting scores back faster with the digital LSAT, so it won't be as long as of a wait, I think ideally sooner, but again, I think any of September, October, November is more than sufficient, right? As long as you have the score that they need. And again, is it, early decision? So again, we're talking about different things here. Applying early versus early decision. Early decision, I think, can be very beneficial. Oops, sorry about that. I don't know what I did there. Okay. Oh, shit. Sorry. All right, so back to what we're talking about. Is early decision really... So again, applying early and early decision, different concepts. Applying early, trying to take advantage of rolling admissions, right? Early decision is basically saying that, from my understanding, a lot of that is binding, where you apply early, saying, if you accept me, I am coming to your law school, right? And, I'm assuming that is beneficial from the perspective that it obviously shows a level of commitment to that particular institution. But again, I think what matters more, and I really appreciate the one heart that came up there on the right. It was really very sweet of whoever that was. I think, again, what matters more is having the LSAT score that you need to get accepted into the schools that you're interested in. So, again, I'm not sure it take longer to populate than the traditional exam. I don't think so. And for those of you guys asking about, private tutors in certain locations, guys, remember, it's 2019. You can find a tutor anywhere. We offer, all of our instructors are available for private tutoring, and we can tutor you from any location in the world. So, if you are struggling with the LSAT and you're looking for help, please, guys, drop it one more time since I totally forgot to do it last week. Just shoot us a text. We're here to help any way we can. All right, let's see what else we got. All right, will we change our strategies to adapt to the digital LSAT? So again, guys, I think this is an interesting question. We got a similar question last week with regard to should you sign up for a new course to prepare for the digital LSAT. And guys, substantively, the exam is identical, right? And so if that's the case, right, the strategies, the techniques, they're the same. Now, obviously, we will highlight for you places that I think you need to get more comfortable with, like logic games, right? Again, not having the game shell on a piece of paper, right, is going to make it more challenging for you to stay organized and take advantage of previous work, right? Which again, totally fine. Just something you definitely want to get comfortable with as you prepare. So not only eventually, that's the case, right? As of September 2019. So as of now, the next LSAT is September 2019. There are no other. Exams that are going to be paper pencil in North America, right? Obviously, internationally, they're going to stay paper pencil for the foreseeable future. But if you're in U.S. or Canada, it is now the Digital LSAT. So get ready. And again, we are having our Digital LSAT sale, 15% off. All of our courses expires tonight at midnight Eastern time. So definitely take advantage of that as well. We're celebrating all the trees that LSAC has spared with their decision to go digital. So again, I think, I would suggest LSATMax. And, actually, I think even beyond LSATMax, the reason I can say LSATMax with confidence is every one of our instructors scored in the 99th percentile, right? And none of them were naturals, which means they struggle to increase their score like everyone does. Obviously, if you're looking for a private tutor, we do offer them. You can see our instructors on our website. But what I would say is, it's not about the company. It's about the person that is your tutor. Focus on their qualifications. What was their experience with the LSAT? How long have they been teaching LSAT prep? And I think those are things that will help you get more comfortable thing. 6 months in advance, I think, yes. Obviously, that's a great time frame to give yourself. The more time you have, the better, right? My journey from a 148 to a 174 took me 7 months. And, again, why does LSATMax offer lifetime access? It's not only because we think it would be wrong to recharge you for something we've already said we would do, which is prepare for the LSAT, but even more so, we want you to think about LSAT prep as more than 8 to 10 weeks, right? It's the most important factor in law school admissions, right? So think about it. I think this is a really good thing to think about. the GPA that you spent 4 or 5 years of your life on, right, is maybe 20% of your application. The LSAT, which is 75-80% of your application, you're going to spend 8 weeks preparing for. It just doesn't make any sense. And again, you need to text LSAT to that number. But yes, if you text LSAT to 310-818-7743, you can get a free consult. Hannah, our tutors are additional charge for private tutoring. Again, different from the support that comes with a course, right? The message boards, the chat that, and obviously we chat with students all the time. So we always say there's a difference between the support that we provide with the course and private tutoring. But yes, if somebody wants a different level of personal support, it would be additional charge. I'm planning to purchase LSATMax and prep for 4 months for the November exam. So again, DJ Nightcrawler, I think what matters is where you start and where you want to go, right? And so the way I would think about whether you should extend your timeline is, as you prepare, you should be taking simulated practice LSATs, and you should get a sense of what you're scoring. If you're scoring near your target score, right, I think that's great. Then you should take it. If you're not, then maybe you want to extend it, right? And again, there's nothing wrong with taking a year off in between undergrad and law school, guys. Again, remember, law school is 3 years of your life, $200,000 of somebody's money. There's absolutely no reason to settle, right? And again, I know humans have a tendency to gravitate towards the path of least resistance, right? If things were easy, everybody would do them, right? So please, guys, spend the time to put yourself in a position to not only achieve your goals, but to maximize the fruits of those labors. Please, trust me, I mean, I've been there, right? First generation immigrant, graduated Harvard Law School. Remarkable doors can open for you. After your LSAT result, what about personal statement? Great question, Troublemaker Chicago. Yes, guys, please spend the time on your personal statement, right? It is the one chance you have to show the person beyond the numbers, right? I always tell my story. I totally half-assed my personal statement after I got my LSAT score, and it resulted in me getting waitlisted at Harvard Law School twice. And then when I took my personal statement seriously, I was accepted, which was obviously super exciting. Shout out to Toby Stock, who was the Dean of Admission back then, who finally decided to give me a chance. Hopefully I have made him proud. Do you recommend using additional resources to study? Additional resources, it depends. Additional resources to what, right? Additional resources to LSATMax? Absolutely not. We offer everything you need. And again, so, I think the most important thing for your prep as you prepare for the LSAT is two things. One is something that is providing you the correct strategies. And the second thing you need is tons of real practice LSATs to practice on, preferably in a digital format so you can replicate the nature of the digital LSAT that you will be facing. Graduate program GPAs. Again, obviously they'll look at it, but if they're not weighting undergrad GPAs, I doubt they'll be giving much weight to a graduate school GPA. How late can you register for the LSAT? So, the registration deadline for the September LSAT is August 1st. So guys, everybody who has not registered for the September LSAT, who is planning to take that exam, please make sure you register. And do it now. I mean, what are we waiting for? Just register so you don't forget. Obviously, if you have created an account with LSATMax, even a free account, and you've properly identified your exam date, we will be letting you know about upcoming deadlines. So guys, I know a lot of people, when they create accounts, they use emails that where all the spam goes. I promise you we won't be spamming you, and we will be providing a ton of useful information. So please make sure when you create your accounts with us, you not only identify your exam date correctly, but you use an email address that you check. I feel I'm getting older. I want to get law school out of the way. Listen, totally get it, right? I get it. But remember, getting it out of the way, is that really the point of going to law school? Is it just to say, hey, I went to law school? I'm assuming that going to law school, there's a larger dream, a larger goal there, right? And again, not saying that you can't achieve those from lower ranked schools, but again, just remember, that you can really increase your chances of scholarships. And again, a JD is a JD, right? My only concern is crippling debt burdens that will not make life post-grad enjoyable. Should we use professional help pro agencies? You mean I'm assuming that's for applications and your law school applications and your personal statements. Listen, admissions consulting is obviously it's a business, and not only admission consulting, as we saw with the appalling news that came about. Admission scamming is big business, right? Which is obviously super sad to see, because obviously I think the key for a fair functioning society is a level playing field. And so, obviously, one of the things with admissions consulting is that they generally tend to be pretty expensive and pricey. So only a certain type of student really has the luxury of taking advantage of that. But it is obviously, I think, something that could be very helpful. I mean, people who spend time constantly looking at applications and applying with students, they get a sense of what works, what doesn't. Obviously, listen, I'm always happy to share my personal experience applying to law school. Probably what we'll do one of these days is let's do a Q&A on the law school application process, because I'm happy to share all my information free of charge. I am not an admissions expert, though. It's just one thing to keep in mind. I was accepted to a handful of really good schools. All right, so jumping back into the Q&A here, sorry. Are large score increases possible with proper practice? Absolutely. So again, my story, I went 26 points from a 148 to a 174. One of our other instructors that you encounter in LSATMax Nas, she went from a 145 to a 175. And then obviously, we see it a lot with our students. So yes, absolutely, it's possible to see dramatic score increases with the LSAT. Not only is it learnable, as I say all the time, I think there's a point of no return. So good question. In terms of our hard copy materials now that the LSAT is digital. So I think, it's still nice to be able to follow along and take notes as you watch the video lessons. Nas took a year to see that increase, the 30-point increase that I just mentioned. So as I was saying, I think it's nice to be able to take notes as you watch the video lessons, because that's a much more active process when you're paying attention, taking notes, than just passively listening. And then obviously you do have the homework assignments also in hard copy. If we suggest doing as many questions in the digital format as possible, but obviously sometimes you might find it nice to work paper pencil. But even in that case, as we always say, if you ever do anything paper pencil, please come back to LSATMax, input your answers so our analytics can take advantage. So you can take advantage of our analytics that will highlight strengths and weaknesses for you, and give you a lot of really personalized data that we can use to maximize your prep time here. Ali, I'm sorry to hear that. Obviously there were a number of other reports about administrators not doing their job properly. One of which was not allowing students to use pencils on the digital LSAT, and obviously that's unfortunate. I would always complain. Because listen, if you don't complain, how are they going to hold them accountable, right? And I think what LSAC wants, the same thing everybody wants, right? Which is a seamless experience for the students that is not adding additional stress for no reason. So does it look bad if you take the LDAT more than once? I'm assuming we're talking about the LSAT, and no, it doesn't look bad if you take it more than once. But again, something to be aware of, the idea that the digital LSAT was going to usher in this age of unlimited LSAT takes, that is not true, right? Remember, LSAT recently announced the retake policy for the digital LSAT 3 times in a year, 5 times in 5 years, 7 times in your life, and if you ever score 180, you are banned from taking the exam again. which again, not quite sure why you would want to take it again if you scored a 180, but hey, whatever blows your hair back. In terms of will score release become faster with the digital LSAT? Again, yes, I think that's one of the things that LSAT is really priding itself on here, and it's natural, right? Instead of having to run scantrons, if you have digital answers, you can get that out pretty quickly. I mean, obviously, if you look at our app, it tells you your score right away. I don't know if we'll ever see that world where, like the GMAT gives you your score right away. It's possible, right? I mean, it's definitely something that's possible with digital world. But as of now, it still will take some time, but it will be faster. How many times do you recommend taking the LSAT? I'm a big believer that you should take the LSAT when you are ready to take it, which means that you are consistently achieving your target score on your simulated practice LSATs. I think that is really the easiest standard to use in terms of your readiness to take it. All right, so obviously this is a LSATMax specific question because in our recommended study schedules, you see a transition from the daily course assignments to a period that is practice and review, right? And so what do we mean by practice and review? And so during this period, what we recommend is taking one full-length LSAT a week under simulated exam conditions, right? And what we mean by that is 5 sections. And if you're using practice LSATs by LSATMax or the prep tests in LSATMax, the digital prep tests, and you want to create 5-section LSATs, here's the best way to do that. Just take a section from a different LSAT as your first section. That's going to be our quote-unquote experimental section, and then launch the 4-section prep test that you're taking as your digital LSAT. And that will be a way to simulate that 5-section experience. We are working on the ability to add the section directly into any exam, but that's the thing that's the most important part of this practice and review period. Your once a week, full-length digital LSAT under simulated exam conditions, preferably at the time, on the day and at the time of your actual LSAT, because if we can train our mind to associate that time with logic concentration, right, I think we're doing a good thing. Now, we're big believers of, taking it under time pressure on one day, and then the next day coming back, and before you grade it, right, before you know what you did right, what you did wrong, taking it again without time pressure, right? And the idea there is, I think this is a great way to get a sense of the tendency of the time pressure to make you break from strategies that are going to cause you to be successful, right? And so, when you're doing it without the time pressure, ask yourself, am I seeing the same thing that I saw the day before? If not, why not, right? What am I seeing differently today that I missed under the time pressure? And then the rest of the week, what we recommend is doing one of two things. Either if you identify weaknesses from the score reports from your simulated exam, like you're struggling on strengthening questions or you're missing hybrid games, I would spend the time to review those concepts during the week, right? If we see any pain points, definitely address them. Outside of that, I think the best thing to do during the practice and review period is do individual sections under time pressure. That way you continue to practice under time pressure, but you just don't experience the mental fatigue that comes with the 5-section digital LSAT experience in a row. Can we cross out on the digital LSAT? I'm assuming we're talking about the ability to eliminate an incorrect answer choice. And if that's what we're referring to here, the answer to that is yes. And I can show you our app mimics the way that it works. So I'll pull it up here. You see in the left corner here, you see these minus signs. That is going to eliminate the answer choice. So you see I'll tap a few of them, and they'll be gone, crossed off, and light grayed out. And then you see it changes to a plus sign, and if I were to tap the plus sign, it would bring it back. and that's the same kind of functionality that you're seeing on the Digital Lsat in terms of eliminating incorrect answer choices. And no, it doesn't make any difference if you substitute our diagnostic test or any diagnostic test with another prep test that you choose, right? It doesn't make any difference. The key is doing simulated exams under time pressure, right? Great question. So if you want to know what I did, I taught LSAT prep. So I didn't do anything too groundbreaking while I was awaiting to go to law school. And again, if any of you do break 99th percentile and you would like to do LSAT prep part-time on the side, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're always looking for really smart, motivated people who have cracked the LSAT to help us provide unparalleled support to our students. So really, I think what I would suggest doing is travel. Do the things that you won't be able to do when real life starts. Because remember, once you graduate from law school, that's real life. When you graduate from undergrad, it's not real life yet, right? It's getting close, but you're not there. So enjoy it. Don't be in a rush to grow up. As I think it was Peter Pan said that. Amazing advice. How much paper is provided? Again, so tons of paper. You can request more. The booklet apparently had 14 pages in it, so nothing to worry about here. Are the older tests still useful for studying? Absolutely, right? Absolutely. I think, this is a very common question. Now, just so you know, what are the differences? As of June 2007, and a lot of people always wonder, why is the free LSAT the June 2007 LSAT? That was so long ago. The reason that's the free LSAT is that's the oldest LSAT in the history of the modern LSAT, which is it adds the comparative passage, right? Because prior to June 2007, you had 4 solitary reading comp passages. As of June 2007, you see the one comparative passage that appears, right? So I think that is obviously, so when you do the older exams, they're not going to have a comparative reading comp passage if it's before June 2007. But again, that is not the end of the world, so nothing to really worry about there. The other thing that you'll see is the type of question frequencies will change. If you notice, one of the things that you'll see is over the years, principal questions became much more common. And again, going back to sufficient and necessary, right? Principal questions are becoming much more common. Again, sufficient and necessary is something that you definitely want to make sure you are comfortable with. And guys, if you're struggling with sufficient and necessary, your course doesn't teach it properly, you can in-app purchase just our sufficient and necessary section of the course. I forget how much it is. It's either $40 or $50, right? And it unlocks the video lesson, and it unlocks the homework questions as well. And guys, it's not something that should be giving us trouble like that. Because again, for the most part, it's pure memorization. All right, so we're getting close to winding down here. I've got about 7 minutes left. Let's see. What is the additional shipping cost of textbooks for an international LSATMax student? It really depends on where you are, because we're just going to get the quote and charge you whatever it is. So the best way to figure that out, A River, is just shoot a message to support customer service, give us your address, and we can give you the exact quote for that. And another thing to be aware of, in terms of we talk about the older exams, one of the questions that I think we should definitely be aware of is the new question that they love to give us at the end of a logic game, which is, if I were to suspend this condition and add a different condition that maintains the same basic setup of the game, what is that condition, right? I think those are also become a lot more common. So, aside from practicing in doing individual sections, full-length time, I would read, right? Read in your spare time, guys. I think, why do we offer the Economist subscription with the LSATMax Premium? But again, the Economist subscription is $12, so anybody can go get a subscription to the Economist. And the idea behind that is, by exposing yourself to well-written materials with high levels of vocabulary, including across subjects that you don't really have any interest in, I think you're helping train your mind to maintain focus and read those kind of materials at a faster rate. No, you cannot. You have to, as of your date of your LSAT, you have a year, so you won't be able to take it before your LSAT. Obviously, if you took July and you're also taking September, you will be able to take it now. You won't have to wait till the September exam. Ooh, so let's see what else is going on. Sorry, there's so many more questions. We talked a lot about timing. How many times is too much to take the LSAT? Well, guys, remember, you can only take it 3 times in a year, 5 times in 5 years, 7 times in your life. So I think that would be your upper limit. What is the hardest section? It varies, right? Some people feel it's the games. Some people feel it's reading comp. Some people feel it's logical reasoning. I think it really applies to your own, strengths and weaknesses before you started to study for the LSAT. Is the Economist available on desktops? Yeah, they have a digital subscription that you can access from their apps as well as online. So absolutely. Yes, Aaron, I think absolutely this is possible, but I think the key to having this occur is having a course that provides the flexibility to allow you to do that, right? A limited access 8-10 week course with set schedule in terms of classes is not going to be conducive for you, right? Compare that to our world where it's instant and lifetime access, everything's available on demand, because I think the main issue for you is you're not going to have the same hours per day to commit, which is fine. It's just going to space out the journey over a longer period of time, right? And so if you're ever wondering how to progress with our materials, when you're not having the same amount of time to commit as we might set forth in the calendar in terms of, completing things on a daily basis, remember, our calendar is an order of assignments, right? And that's all that matters. Go through those assignments in that order. Think of it as a checklist. So again, you're talking about background, right? Obviously, I think unique backgrounds are always beneficial in terms of applying to law school. I think obviously being able to tell a story about why you want to go to law school, right? Again, I think the personal statement, that's really where that comes from. You should be able to have a reason, an articulable reason of why you are pursuing the JD. Will this be available later? Yes. Again, so it's going to be available for 24 hours on Instagram. We have the 2-minute countdown has begun. So we're going to wrap this up here. This will be available to watch for the next 24 hours on Instagram. We will be uploading it to YouTube. And I'm hoping we figured out how to get it to be live on Instagram as well without having to do the 15-second kind of mashup that you see from last week's Instagram live Q&A, which again, that is also live in the highlights. All you need to do is go to our profile and you'll see it at the top there. Some other things, again, guys, if you haven't downloaded our app, please make sure you spend the time to do it. Not only does it come with a ton of free content, including the free Digital Lsat, comes with daily drills, comes with tons of free content. Again, you can always reach out to our staff if you ever have any questions. We're happy to help any way we can. And again, one thing I did want to just reiterate, if you are struggling, we've been there, right? And again, I do talk to students myself all the time. And if you actually download the app, I do give you my cell phone number, which you are able to text at any time. So guys, if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate. In terms of daily drills not updating, remember guys, there's a finite number of daily drills in the app. I want to say it's about 75, so depending on how long you've been using the daily drills, I appreciate that feedback there. Depending on how long you've been using the daily drills, you might have ran out, and we'll be able to push some new ones live. Thanks again for joining me, guys. I really enjoy it. Hopefully we'll see you guys next week or very shortly for another one. So talk to you guys soon. Best of luck to everyone studying out there.